It's time for Get the Lac Scoop, a podcast bringing you all the people and stuff you should know in the game of lacrosse. We take lac seriously, but ourselves, not so much. Join hosts Big Dog and Jaybird and the biggest names in the game. Brought to you by J. McMahon Lacrosse. That's JML, skills, mindset, and lax IQ training.
Ron Douglas, the Big Dog, was a collegiate football and lacrosse player at Brown. He was also an assistant lacrosse coach and the executive director of the Sports Foundation.
And Jay McMahon, the Jaybird, a three-time All-American midfielder at Brown. He was a captain of the U.S. Junior National Team and is the founder of JML. And joining us in the studio, Steve Grisalfi, whose collegiate lacrosse career statistics equals 1 goal against Dartmouth.
You have a great regular season, at #1 seed in the NCAA tournament, and then you guys get to the finals again. And looking at the stats, there was over 100,000 people that witnessed that Final Four and over 48,000 people at the championship game. So that, I mean, what a roller coaster ride. That must.
Is there a question coming sometime in our
I'm
future?
setting the stage.
All right,
That's what we do
excuse me.
in journalism.
Sorry.
Get with it. So anyway, as a follow-up, I would imagine all those experiences had to leave a mark, and then you go forward the very next year to be a head coach. So just, I don't know, what you can tell us about that. I mean, holy cow, that's an incredible series of years, right? I mean, holy cow.
Yeah. The experience playing at Duke was life-changing for me, and one of the biggest reasons was Mike Pressler and being recruited by Coach Pressler, and then having the opportunity to play for him and be a 2-time captain for him. And I learned so much just about how to lead. I always kind of look at Coach Pressler and his coaching style and, say that he was the ultimate CEO, just the way that he ran his program, and incredibly organized and, really focused in on leading men and helping them to become leaders of each other. So I learned a ton playing for him. I also had the opportunity just to get an inside look at going back and coaching for him.
Mm-hmm.
And then obviously spending time and becoming a coach myself and learning what is necessary to run a championship caliber program. And I quickly learned a couple of years after that, when we were at Duke, we were playing from behind a little bit. We didn't have the full complement of scholarships when I was playing there. We never had the opportunity to kind of get to the Final Four. We had the opportunity to do it, but we never made it. We made it as far as the quarterfinals twice, but we were doing all that, and Coach Pressler was doing all that with 8 scholarships in the program. So 4.6 short of what everybody else was doing out there. And when you're a player, you have no idea. You don't know that's a thing. You just look around and say, hey, we're on a level playing field with everybody else out there. And so when you look at the success that Coach Pressler had in his time at Duke, and then you factor things like that in and some of the challenges that he was dealing with there, it's pretty remarkable what he was able to do. So I was able to get a newfound respect for the way that he operated and how much success he had and how he led us on the verge of a Final Four, very much shorthanded compared to a lot of other teams. So that was impressive.
Right.
And then the experience of coming back and coaching for him, that was really, really special. And obviously we went through some tough times together. So I'm grateful that I had the opportunity to do that with him and kind of learn from him through all those tough times, through the Duke lacrosse scandal. And obviously it was very, very difficult times, but the way I always look at it is it's something that I wouldn't wish upon my worst enemy to have to go through, because it was really, really tough and really hard. But I'm grateful that I was there during that time, because I felt like, as an alum and someone who was still connected to the players, those seniors that were on that team, they were freshmen when I was a senior. So a very special bond with those group of guys, and obviously the alumni and young alums, and a lot of connections there. So I'd like to think that it was helpful that I was there to help bridge the gap between Coach Pressler and Coach Haudenosaunee. And that 2007 year was a wild year.
Yeah.
Having John Haudenosaunee come in and going through a season where there were trials going on simultaneously, and there was a lot there. And obviously to make it to the Final Four and be in the championship game, there was a lot of interest around our team and a lot of interest around college lacrosse. And And I think that's a big part of the reason why you saw such great crowds. And fortunately, we came up a goal short, but the life lessons that were learned through all of that, those men still talk to them today, and they're doing amazing things. And very proud of all of them, and happy for having the opportunity to be with them. And if you kind of sit back and look at it, sandwiched in all of that, my first year in coaching was with Lars. So had the opportunity to play with Coach Pressler, or play for Coach Pressler, coach with Lars in my first year as a coach, go back and coach with Coach Pressler, and then in the next year coach with John Danowski.
Right.
I had, in 3 short years of coaching, was around 3 legends of the game.
It's
So
amazing.
you wonder, hey, and also, by the way, went through one of the biggest crises in
Right.
in college athletics history. So yeah, I was ready. I felt ready as a
Right. So
26-year-old
26,
to
you
be
were
a head
really
coach.
36. You like
Exactly.
had 10 years in 1 year, that
Yeah.
2006 year.
What else could I say? So it was, I learned a lot. I learned a ton, thanks to those great men, and I felt like I was ready to be a head coach.
That is cool. Now, what was Coach Janowski like in comparison, say, to Coach Pressler?
They're
Different
all
styles,
different.
or
Yeah, all
yeah.
different. Coach Stanowski, and that year was wild. He was less of a lacrosse coach in that year, and more of, he had to do everything else. And
Counselor?
so yeah, there was a lot going on campus, and so he was very, very distracted. So I thought he did a good job of keeping his eye on the prize, and also being able to manage everything that was going on around him, which was difficult. And he had a son on the team. Matt was on the team,
Mm-hmm.
and so there was definitely that dynamic that helped, knowing him and knowing the players. So, but he did a great job throughout that year. A very difficult situation to walk into, and he led us right there to the doorstep.
It's amazing. Good stuff. Okay. Now, Lars, we'd love to hear about the relationships that people have through the sport of lacrosse. And, as Coach Cassese was just saying, you were his first head coach as far as his first coaching job. So what was it like tell us when you first met Kevin, and then what that year was like coaching with him?
Sure, I'll answer that, but let me segue what Kevin was talking about a couple years later when he's down in Durham. It was miraculous what such a young man was able to do. When Mike Pressler was removed from the Duke lacrosse program, and the first assistant, stepped aside, wasn't able to handle the media responsibilities of carrying this Division I team. Here's Kevin,
Huh.
and he's the face of the program. Kevin was part of an interview. I mean, he was in, what was it, Kevin? 50, 60 reporters in the room, and
Right. Gee.
he's the voice of Duke lacrosse at
Right.
such a
Wow.
young age. But
Jesus.
He was the interim head coach. I didn't have that in there. He was, yeah.
yeah, I mean, but to have the poise and the strength and literally the backbone
Gosh.
to
Right.
be, and this isn't just a normal lacrosse conversation where,
Right.
maybe 50,000 lacrosse nuts are listening to you. You got millions of people across the country like, oh, what's going on with this Duke lacrosse scandal?
Yeah.
Those
Yeah.
guys in the public eye, they were guilty until proven innocent, and
Yeah.
who's this
Yeah.
speaking for them? And I mean,
Yeah.
I remember Kevin saying, it just, and as he prepared for that, I've seen him do that in so many things, in so many ways as a lacrosse coach over the last 20 years. He sought out, expert help. He went out and he told me, talk to Coach Krzyzewski, and Coach K came and talked to him like, okay, this is how you handle the media, and this is how you present yourself, and
Wow.
reached out, and I've seen Kevin do that, and it's I chuckle now because those first few years, Kevin, he probably did have some things to learn X's and O's wise, but then a couple of years after that, Kevin was still coming to me and other coaches like, hey, I really don't understand this. Can you help me out here? He honestly did know what he was talking about. He did understand what we were doing on our ride, or he did understand what our man up play was, but he wanted like one little or two little pieces because he wanted to make his own man up continue to be the best in the country. He wanted to make his ride continue to be one of the best. I mean, it was just he's got a way of, a little bit of a schnooker, but he's got an open
He's gonna suck that extra piece of information out of you, whether
but
you want
because
it or
he's
not.
got that personality, he's so engaging with other people, and he's disarming. He's very intelligent, and he's just a lot of fun to be around. So people give up the motts, they give the dirt, and
Yes, nice technique.
but it is true. It's real in terms of relationship. I see him doing it with our men already. He's making me have to become a better man and have better relationships with men because I see the relationships he's already building with the UVA lacrosse men. And I'm like, okay, well, I got to get better here because look, this is true. This isn't transactional. What he's dealing with his offensive players and faceoff men.
Right.
He's really, really building some relationships. Okay, let me segue back. It's Kevin was introduced to me by, I think that some Brine representatives. They were saying, hey, this guy Kevin Cassese, he's from Long Island. He's from 10 miles away. He would love to be a part of your new program. I became a head coach in 2004, and after being at Penn State for 4 years, and I needed to build the staff out. And I was like, all right, who wants to join this unproven head coach? Who wants to do this? And so I got some great recommendations from him. Obviously, it's seen him play as an elite player. There does tend to be, we do give people a little bit more rope when you've been a great player. We assume you can coach, but you're never quite sure. But it certainly gets your foot in the door. And so from that first meeting with Kevin, and just the humor, here's this guy with this incredible resume, a monster of an athlete. And yet he's not telling all that byline when you started off this interview. He's not going to talk about all that. He's not going to share those type of stories, try to one up your story. That's not who Kevin is. He's an incredible listener, and he's an incredible friend, and I'm really lucky that he's part of our staff.
Nice. Beautiful.
This is fun. Can we do this every week?
Right. We could do that.
So Kevin, how about you? Like, you're a young coach, and what are your first impressions of this guy Lars Tiffany as a head coach? As you're learning to, you're obviously a great player, as Lars said, but now you're learning how to be a coach. And what are your impressions of Coach Tiffany during that time at Stony Brook?
Well, first impression was we met at a Chili's. That's where the job interview was. I'll never forget this as long as I live. But we met at a Chili's right in Stony Brook, and we instantly start diving into X's and O's. And I remember Lars breaking out some sugar packets and salt shakers, and doing a couple of different diagrams right there on the table, and just dove right in. And that was kind of my introduction. My first impression was, man, this guy is really smart. He's a really smart lacrosse coach. He's really inquisitive. And that became, so true as I dove in with him, and we had that, incredible year together at Stony Brook. And, I felt like I had so much to learn when it came to how to play the game and how to coach the game. And I learned all that from Lars. I also learned the work ethic that is required to be a champion at the coaching level, in the coaching profession. And I had learned the work ethic from my parents. Both of them were teachers, and my dad was, I said earlier, a high school football coach. And both my parents were always the ones saying, hey, you're gonna be the first to show up and the last one to leave. And I remember that was really hard to do with Lars because he was in the office all hours of the night. So I would be sitting in my office oftentimes with nothing to do.
I'm not leaving here.
Is he still in there? And I would just wait him out. I'd be sitting in there. My closet, or my office was the size of a closet. I'd be sitting in that closet for hours. I'm not leaving. I'm not lasting. And then what that turned into was this incredible friendship where, we would eventually, it would be dinner time or even later than dinner time. And we were both still there and say, all right, let's go grab a bite to eat, or let's go watch a high school lacrosse game, or, let's plan to go and watch a college lacrosse game, because you could do live scouting at the time. And we just spent so much time together in that year. It was awesome as a young coach to be able to tag along and be with him in all those experiences. I really learned what it took to be successful as a coach at this level.
Hello, everyone. We're so glad to be back, and we're so glad you're joining us for Season 2 of the Get the Lac Scoop podcast. Due to popular demand, we have put together a Patreon page for the show. This will allow those interested in supporting our efforts to do just that, and to get exclusive access to unedited interviews, big discounts on JML online courses, and merchandise from our new online store. Big additions to the JML course catalog. Now we have a defenseman's course taught by none other than UVA head coach Lars Tiffany, and a goalie course taught by former two-time All-American and UVA assistant coach Kip Turner. You can check out our Patreon page with the link that is listed in the description, as well as taking a look at the online store, again, with the link listed in the description. We're super excited to get back to our interview, and you will find that interview in progress. And were you just kind of deciding on the coaching profession, like you just graduated from college, you're like, all right, I'll take this first job, where you're like, I'm feeling this college lacrosse coaching thing out? Or had you decided, like, I'm doing this for the rest of my life?
Yeah, I decided that coaching was something that I was going to go after and dive in head first on. I didn't know if that would eventually be college coaching or potentially high school coaching, like my father. But I knew that coaching was something that I wanted to do. My first year out of school, I went and actually worked at Brine, the lacrosse company up in the Massachusetts area. And I was close to the game, but there was something missing. And that interaction with a team and players and competition, I missed that in my year, just out of school. So this was a great opportunity to get into it and see if college coaching was for me. And obviously it was, and a big part of that was being there and working for Lars and learning from him.
That's great. Nice.
So, Kevin, we mentioned earlier, I mean, you're in pretty elite company, having been a three-time, world team player for Team USA. And it's been pretty neat for us, through this podcast. Like, we had on some of the people who are in that company with you, like a guy, John D. Tommaso, who was a big sort of a hero of mine growing up in Maryland and watching him play at Hopkins. And then our teammate and yours on Team USA in '02, Darren Lowe. And of course, those are the players that young players aspire to. I want to be that. How do you get there? As you talk to young kids, you're all over the country talking to players of all ages. What would you tell them were the keys to your success at the simple level? What do you have to do to get to whatever level you want to be at? What are the things you talk about in terms of being a great player?
Yeah, the first one's easy. It's you have to fall in love with the game. That's the number one thing. And if you fall in love with the game, then you're gonna spend the time that's required to be great at it. And that was easy for me. That it was kind of love at first sight when I got introduced to it, as we spoke about earlier. And so falling in love with the game is a big piece of it. And for me, I didn't want to put the stick down, and I wanted to continue to work. And the competitive spirit in me was always there. That's something that I very much took from my parents. So I always wanted to be the best at whatever it was that I was doing. So therefore, I would go and I would work for it. So I don't think there's any complicated recipe there. I think it's just doing the small things, the simple things over and over and over again. And I think it's also, having some good fortune along the way. And, I felt like that was a big part of the first time that I made Team USA, because it was a really interesting time. 2002, it was just at the beginning of the professional league, the MLL.
Yeah.
And they didn't allow the MLL players to play in it.
Yeah.
So they had to choose either to play MLL or to play for Team USA. So that's why we had this interesting roster of some older guys, that had to either decide not to play in the MLL or, decided that they were just done playing at that level. And so we had guys, like the Lowe brothers, and Timmy Shore and some other guys. And then the rest of us were all college guys. So I just
Mikey
finished my
Powell.
junior year, and yeah, exactly. So it was really interesting. So I got that experience. It was also kind of cool to be on a Team USA team that was very much the underdog heading into it. And that was the first time that had ever happened.
Yeah.
Because the guys on Team Canada, there wasn't such a rule that, they had all the studs playing for them. So it was interesting, but I appreciated that opportunity. And obviously we went in it as the underdog, and we ended up winning the championship. And it was the start of, a long period of time, either as a player or as a coach with Team USA. And really fun to be able to play on that team in particular. Mike Pressler was the assistant coach on that team, and Jack Emmer was the head coach. And, so to have, again, more experiences and exposure to these legendary coaches. Playing for Jack Emmer in 2006, it was John Desco. And, then I got a chance in 2010 to play again for Mike Pressler. It was just really, really incredible and kind of surreal to be able to play at that level and continue it on. But that 2010 That was a big goal of mine. I was, 30 years old at the time, which, the most guys weren't still playing at the professional level at that age. And, it was my goal to go and be a captain of that team and be on that team as soon as I heard that Coach Pressler was going to be the head coach. And I really went and worked for it and had to, also being a head coach at Lehigh at the time, it was difficult to devote the time that was required for both of those things to try and be as successful as I could in both endeavors. But I'm proud of the fact that we're able to do that and help lead Coach Pressler to a gold medal after all he had been through with the situation at Duke. To see him at the top of the mountain, that was a very emotional experience for me and for him as well. And to share that with him was really special.
That's awesome. Amazing stuff. All right. And now, Lars, yourself, having coached at multiple World Games with the Haudenosaunee Nationals, once as an assistant, and then this past summer as a head coach, you're there coaching players like Lyle Thompson and likely the offensive MVP from this summer, Austin Stotts. And what is it? Tell us a little bit about their approach to the game and their commitment and, what that's like.
Yeah, well, first of all, I'll focus on the stick. I'm going to steal a little bit of the question you asked, Kevin. What makes this sport different? Certain sports, the big money revenue generating sports, basketball height is so critical. Baseball vision, having better than 20/20 vision, so the hitters can see the curveball versus the fastball or the split or whatever that is. Football, yeah, the mass is so critical. Well, I mean, we love all that in lacrosse, but it's the stick. And so when you talk about hard work, focused, training with purpose, the sport of lacrosse actually gives you that opportunity, because if you really, really develop great stick work and you can do it with both hands, now you can set yourself apart from others and has nothing to do with your genetics.
Right.
Oh, you didn't just win the ovarian lottery. This is a sport where you can just drive it home, bam, 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 getting that stick work as best you can. And so when you ask the question about Lyle Thompson and Audie Stotts and the Native American players I was fortunate to grow up with and really, really lucky to be able to coach the last two World Games in Israel and San Diego, their stick work is amazing. And I mean, it's startling. I spend 9 months a year with Virginia lacrosse players, elite Division I college lacrosse players. When we then got into San Diego and did our first practice in the stick work, I was amazed. And again, my bar is fairly high, right?
Right.
I'm just watching these 23 guys zing the ball around, just snapping off from the wrist and handling everything and just catching the release, the quickness of the release. And so that's the beauty of this thing. It's well documented, the four Thompson brothers in the backyard, with their father putting the wood goalie with just little circles that the ball barely fits through. You got to throw the ball through that cutout circle for it to be a goal.
Right.
And and again, they didn't have TV, and a lot of Native Americans, electricity is throughout most of the reserves, but not all. And so this is the outlet, and there's a part of you wish there was more books and a more public library access. But, this is the reality that this game is part of their history. It's part of their roots, the story of the origins of the planet, the origins of the people. The game of lacrosse is filtered in through there for them. And so it's just natural for them to go out in the backyard, go out to the field, go to the box and play. But having that stick in your hand is so critical. And that's what you get to see. What I love also to build on top of the stick and the relationship is Zed Williams, who played for us at University of Virginia. Dom Stark and Mark Van that recruited him and brought him out of Silver Creek, the Cattaraugus Nation up in Western New York area. I mean, to see Zed Williams get ready for a game, to see Zed Williams, what was it, a couple years ago in the PLL, he was the MVP.
Yeah.
I mean, to see him kiss the stick, to see him this summer in San Diego, how this relationship he has with the stick, to see him play with the stick that Alfie Jacques created that my father gave to me as a gift. That every game this year in San Diego with the Haudenosaunee, because that's the type of stick which is not legal in most other sports of lacrosse, but for the international game, it's not, that Zed goes out there and played for the first 2 minutes with a 6-foot, white oak stick.
Right.
It's the stick. It's this relationship with a stick that's so personal, and having that stick in their hand starting at age 3, that to me is the key.
That is cool. That is definitely a different approach, kissing the stick and all that. Love
Hey,
it.
Jay, I'm going to interject here. So I want to pick up on that, Lars, and both of you've both been deeply involved in the international game. So the Olympics, here we go. So I'd love to have each of you give your sense of how, USA lacrosse is certainly preparing to have that be a key moment for the sport of lacrosse and the ongoing growth of the game. Lars, I'm interested if you have any sort of the latest information on the Haudenosaunees being able to compete in the Olympics, which seems like it may still be up in the air. So obviously it's a huge moment for our sport, and I would love to hear you two reflect on it. Lars, you want to start off?
I'll dive in, and I'm going to give the mixed emotional response. It certainly would be great to have the game of lacrosse again. It obviously happened about 100 years ago to get again recognized and not just be experimental, but be a part of the 4-year cycle to be in the Olympics. And so we're thrilled about that. We understand that that would give other nations who are introducing the game of lacrosse to their populace to grow this game internationally. Having it at the Olympic level really helps European and Asian and other continental nations because that's sort of the measure. Are you in the Olympics or are you not? That would be
Right.
amazing. And how cool would it be for, people from this country, Americans to be able to pursue a gold medal playing this game of lacrosse at the Olympics. My mixed response comes from because I've been fortunate to coach and grow up and live with the Haudenosaunee people. And while it does look like 2028 in Los Angeles, the game of lacrosse will be a part of this. What will be the participation by the Haudenosaunee? Joe Biden, our president, a month ago came out and made a bold statement, strongly encouraging that
Hmm.
our people are allowed to play and participate. But the IOC at this point has not given us the thumbs up. At this point, the IOC is saying, well, there's an international boundary. If you're south of that, why can't those Aboriginal people play and try out for Team USA? And why can't those north of that boundary try out and try to participate with Team Canada? I can tell you at this point, the Haudenosaunee men would not try out for Team USA or Team Canada. It's and it's they want their own people. It's a sovereign nation. And
Right.
I'll admit that the Haudenosaunee, the board, the leadership, the faith keeper, warlords, they look at lacrosse, a bit as a political football. They will use it to drive home the agenda of what we're all trying to get to, that the Haudenosaunee are seen as a sovereign nation and independent from U.S. and Canada. And so, and having been a coach with the Haudenosaunee now, and I'm getting this close and personal with the leadership and the players, I actually completely get it now. I completely buy in. At first, 5 years ago, I'm like, look, I can solve the passport issue if we have trouble getting Israel. You get an American passport because you're south of the border. You get a Canadian passport. We can solve this problem. Luckily,
Right.
2 days late, but we finally got to Netanya. But now I get it. No, we are the Haudenosaunee people. And, having been a coach with the Haudenosaunee, I couldn't coach Team USA if I was lucky enough to be asked. It's the bond, the relationships, being true to who you really are and to the people I really love. It's real. So that's why I give you the mixed answer on the forthcoming opportunity for the world to see lacrosse in the Olympics.
Right.
Lars, you
Well,
talk about the political aspect. Are there things our listeners can do in terms of the realities of political pressure? Are there any sort of advocacy campaigns underway for those who think the Haudenosaunee should be able to compete, given given that they originated this great game?
I do, at this point, obviously we have the president behind it. And really the international level, the IOC, the Olympic Committee. I don't know. I haven't really heard of too much at this point. Now, my gut feeling is that the Haudenosaunee will be allowed to participate in 2028. If I had to guess, I don't try to be a prognosticator or a crystal ball seer. I just try to make Virginia lacrosse and Haudenosaunee when I get to coach them better every day. But it's I do see it, I think it'd be difficult for the IOC to say, okay, we won't give the Haudenosaunee an experimental exhibition spot in 2028. What the Haudenosaunee people, what we're trying to do is get this permanent. But I appreciate you asking. And if things like that come up, I will certainly broadcast and publicize efforts that can try to nudge IOC membership.
Yeah.
nice. Great.
Kev,
Well, I think,
Kev, how about your perspective? Oh, I'm sorry,
yeah.
Jay.
No,
Please,
no,
Jay.
I'm sorry.
Uh,
I didn't.
Yeah, I
Let
don't
Coach
think
Cassese speak.
I don't think I would. I don't want to go about trying to answer that any differently than what Lars just said. I wholeheartedly agree with everything he just said, and would just be repeating his points. So ditto, I'll say that.
Gotcha. Nice. Now we had a couple questions here that I think you guys already answered with those earlier answers. Like we get people from the audience saying, what do kids need to do to what kind of skills should they work on before they're going to team practice? What do they need to do if they want to pursue Team USA? And Coach Cassese, you were saying passion, right? Show up with great passion. And Coach Tiffany here was saying the stick skills, right? You got to work on your stick skills. Like the Lyle Thompson and his 3 brothers. I mean, the whole family is out there working on their stick skills. So we always kind of hammer that home. You need to work between practices, and work on your skills. So that is one of the reasons why I think we all love the sport, is that any size player can play, if they've got those stick skills. So let's jump ahead or jump back, Coach Tiffany here, get back to the bromance a little bit between you and Coach Cassese. And tell us, after you worked with him at Stony Brook, like why and how did you guys just, you had that one year you were together, and it's pretty amazing that you stayed friends and in such close contact for, it's like 20 years. And now it culminates in you guys working together. Like, I don't know, just tell us how and why that happened, do you think? And you just how the relationship developed over the years. Like, when would you see each other? I don't know. Give us the background.
Yeah, I mean, it's easy to see each other sporadically throughout the summer because of the recruiting events. But do you maintain relationships during the year with conversations and updates and how's your team doing? And hey, I saw this recruit. I think he seems to be interested in your type of institution, or just sharing of information. But that year we spent together, it was crystal clear. Like you just some people on this planet you click with, and some people you just. Yeah, we're not really compatible. With Kevin and I, it was like, bam. I mean, I remember that first year, Stony Brook's lacrosse stadium, Laval Stadium there, they've got these, it only seats about 9,000. So we're not talking about a Power 5 football conference venue, but we were running up and down every aisle, up all the way to the top, and then just going around the whole stadium and just pushing each other, trying to see who's going to quit first, and nobody was going to quit. And
Nice.
it was just like this kindred spirit of someone who was a better looking and a better athlete than me. But other than that, it was just this. There was a lot of similarities. And
You're not going to get any argument here, Lars.
Yeah, a lot of people would have left you at the stadium stairs. A lot of people would have said, "No, I'm good."
And so we just like, hey, Kevin, I got a problem.
Uh-oh, Coach Tiffany's got a problem. Could this mean trouble in paradise? Could this young, budding bromance be on the rocks? Tune in next week to find out and hear the stunning conclusion to this exciting interview. Until we meet again, here's to hoping you find the twine. We're signing off here at the Get the Lax Scoop. Thanks again so much. We will see you the next time.